Do you see this? This is what happens when you go to play your physical copy of a game and realize that it has DRM on it and it needs to access online even though it's a single player game. Your physical media isn't real anymore. I made a video back then talking about how make sure you don't buy digital games. Buy everything physical, because when you buy a digital copy of a game, you're paying for a license to play that game. You're not actually getting any kind of ownership. If you read all the fine small print before you get all excited and get ready to play the game and just hit X and skip past all of it, you'll see that they're telling you you're just getting a license. You don't own that game. At any point, they can take the servers down. They can remove some day one patch that was needed. Whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. You don't own it, so they can do what they want. So make sure you don't buy games with DRM, at least if you're going to buy them digitally, and just stick to physical copies when you can. This is what I've preached, and this is what most people in my position do. Well, let me tell you something. Your physical media is getting very blurred, the lines between it and digital media. At this point, you may as well just buy a lot of the games digitally. And I mean that in the sense of, if you look at some of your old physical media from recent generations and go to play it, you'll see it doesn't work. The servers have been shut down. Something's gone. It doesn't fucking access whatever thing it needed to access on some day one patch. It's ridiculous. If I buy a single player game that doesn't have any online play, why the heck do I need to access the internet to be able to play it in the first place? Your physical games are supposed to be there so that you have the whole thing. All the data, the whole game is supposed to be included on that disc. Well, that's no longer the case. A lot of the games you buy now have maybe a third of the game on it. Something like Call of Duty is notorious for this. You buy a Call of Duty disc, what is the point? It's the intro on it. The whole campaign isn't there. You have to download an additional 100 gigabytes. When those servers are taken offline, you want to know what happens to that game disc? It becomes a drink coaster. I just realized this the hard way, and I don't know if I'm just the master of being ignorant and learning things the hard way, but I just thought if I buy my stuff physical and I have a copy of a physical game, I own that. It's mine. No one can take it away from me. Well, guess what? It's fake, basically, because the whole game isn't included on the disc. So if that server goes away and something happens, you no longer own that game. It's literally the death of data on a disc. Like, you can't fit the whole thing. I understand that. But if you wanted to, you could spend a little bit more money and make it a multiple CD or multiple cartridge game. Do you remember back in the day, for those of you that are young enough, when you open up Final Fantasy VII and you see 4 discs, or if you go back even further, something like Baldur's Gate 2, 4 discs on PC, you'd get excited. Be like, oh man, I'm in for a treat. This is going to be a big game. And they'd give you everything there. Now, mind you, that's because they had to and there wasn't the digital thing available at the time. But there's no reason they can't still do this. There's games now where they've included both games on a disc. Final Fantasy VII Remake, if I'm not mistaken, is 2 discs. Like, you can do it if you need to. You could make Switch games that are 2 cartridges, open up the thing, and actually have something in there besides a blank spot where a manual is supposed to go. There's no reason you can't have all the data on a disc. You may need more than one, but it can be done. They just choose not to. If you look at the fine print on the bottom now, a lot of the game isn't even included, or none of the game is included at all. Some of the games literally are just glorified download keys. What is the point? Especially things like a collector's edition. You buy a collector's edition, it comes with an action figure, manuals, maps, a steel book where the game CD should go, but you open that up and what's inside? A piece of paper with some numbers and letters telling you to download this for your game. Really? Is that acceptable nowadays? Are we just taking that on the chin and being like, okay, I guess that's how it is now? I always thought that at least if we had our physical media, that means we own our stuff. Now they're taking that away too. Our physical media is becoming digital media. It's becoming useless plastic. I wonder how many games there isn't actually a physical copy of. And by that I mean, I wonder how many games have a digital version of them and then have a physical version of that game that is also just either a digital code or the full thing isn't included on that game, on that disc, or on that CD. That means that game literally doesn't actually exist. It can get just taken away at any time. Nobody actually Nobody actually owns that game besides the company. If there's only a digital version of it and there's a physical version of it, but the physical version doesn't have the full thing on it, then that means that game basically doesn't even exist once the company doesn't want it to, or they stop paying attention to it. This is insane. I don't know how we're just being okay with this. Like, I was fine with it when I thought, whatever, it's the route everything's going. We're moving to an all digital age. I need to stop being an old man yelling on his front lawn about stuff type behavior when it comes to this. But like, you still have the option to buy physical, so it's like, okay. But now the option to buy physical, like I said, the games are so big that the lines are getting blurred. And yeah, you can still buy physical, but it's almost an illusion. There's a day one patch problem. Back in the day, the full game was included on the CD or on the cartridge. There was no other option. So they had to make sure the game was done and in full and complete. And when it was shipped out, that everything was there and done and mastered and no bugs and whatever else, because there was no way to change it. You shipped out 1 million copies and you got 1 million copies made and that was it, you know? So what are you going to do? If you have a bug on it, you're screwed. So they went through it and made sure games were actually complete upon release. Nowadays, 99% of companies rely on that day one patch. You get the game, and if you go to play it, you know, good luck. So they don't finish the games before they release them. So the further and further we go into the future, that's going to be more and more the case. And we're going to get less and less of the full game or the completed version or the patched version on the actual disc or cartridge itself. The only company that was still 100% doing, you know, everything kind of still the right way in the sense of physical media was Nintendo. They were still at least giving you most of their games on a physical copy. You could still access everything off of that game. The whole thing was included on the cartridge. You didn't have to worry about a day one patch or the game being incomplete upon release. When that game released, it was done and completed. And there might be some patches released in the future, but you could play that game without those patches and complete it, and it would be full and done and a good experience. Now, with the Switch 2 release, you know, people are not really reading the fine print and realizing that, okay, yes, there's a difference between the games that they showed that are going to be basically download key games and the games that still have the full game on them. But that just means the lines are getting more and more blurred. It's slowly baking the frog, slowly boiling the frog. If you know that expression, most of you do. I don't have to explain it. But if you just take something and you hit it hard all at one time, people are going to notice and they're not going to like it. So if you take that frog and you just dump him in a pot of boiling water, what's going to happen? He's going to burn and notice and freak out. But if you slowly put him in a pool of warm water and you warm up that water slowly, slowly, slowly until it's boiling hot, he's not even going to notice. And that's what they're doing to us. It's literally the equivalent. Here's the physical media. Here's the physical media that's actually digital media, but it's not actually the full thing. Here's this. Now we're going to blur it. Here's physical media, but the whole thing isn't included. You still need to make a download. Pretty soon, it's just going to be, what's the point of having the physical media? That's the path we're heading down. It's insane. So you look at the license versus the ownership, and it's like, I don't know. Do we actually own the game when you buy it? How do you actually purchase a game? How do you actually buy a game now? Like, besides the games where, yeah, like I'm saying, the full thing is included on the disc or the cart. How do you actually buy a game besides that now? You don't. You just rental. Games are rentals, you know? And not everybody has this stupid mindset like I do also, where it's like everything needs to be so permanent. And if I buy something, I want it to be there and last forever and be such like a stuff goblin. But, you know, I see people who have the complete opposite wrong mindset. Like someone on Twitter just literally replied to me the other day, people need to stop holding on to useless plastic and move on to this digital age. And it's like, you're okay with just not owning anything that you purchase for full price? Do you see the price of games nowadays? You want to pay almost a fucking $100 Canadian, whatever it is, American, $80, $70 US to rent a game that just can be taken away from you at any time? I don't know about you guys, but at least half of my gameplay time is playing games that are at least a couple decades old, 10, 20, 30 years old sometimes. You know, I enjoy those old retro games. Half of my gameplay is like GBA games and stuff like that. Thank God the full thing is there. But if I go to play in 10 years from now, a game on my PS4, and I have the same experience I did, which I showed you in the beginning of this video, where I got freaked out and put in my disc, and why isn't it working? Oh, I need fucking internet for this to work. This is stupid. You know, then that's the position we're going to be in. So the servers shut down. Like, think about this. Did you guys have a Wii digital library? For me, my Wii digital library was huge because it was awesome, and I didn't think about hacking it at the time or modding it, so I didn't have the whole Wii with 1,000 games on it. I just went digitally and bought games when they were on sale, and I had so many good games. And if I were to go plug my Wii in right now and turn it on, games that I purchased that aren't installed, that I need to go back on the Wii U shop to re-download to get, I can't do that. So I don't have those games anymore. So they're just gone because Nintendo decided I don't own those games anymore because those servers shut down and because I wasn't smart enough to buy them on a CD, or maybe they weren't available on a CD, you know? And that's becoming more and more the case. And like I said, if you look at the license versus ownership thing, I don't know where the lines stop and blur and everything else now. It's just, this is the age we're in now, I guess. This is me now. Fuck, man. DRM and server shutdowns. Okay, we already talked about that. But what happens when games that you don't even realize have DRM on them have DRM on them? When you go to buy a single player game, you don't expect to have to like connect to internet when you're going to play it, maybe for the first time sometimes. But other than that, you know, and you know what's insane? This same problem, we're not going to get into this right now, is even with consoles nowadays. Like, I'm pretty sure if you get a PS5 right now, you have to connect to internet at least one time first to be able to get everything set up properly and for it to work. So if you go to play your PS5 in 20 years and you put a disc in and it hasn't already been connected, what happens then? It's just a useless box. Like, I don't even know. I don't know. That's why I said, and I'm getting angry because I don't know how this works anymore. That was me, not you. I'm sorry. So, you know, I don't know. The preservation thing and the whole, like, you know, keeping games around, this is a nightmare now. I don't know what we're going to do. There's people who are like, you know, they make the whole, there's the Reddit mega threads for ROMs and stuff like that, and they claim that's for preservation, and I don't know how much the lines are blurred between preservation and piracy and just wanting to play games for free. But the point of the story is, you know, how are we going to keep these games around? So many games that you know right now and love, if you go to play them in 20 years, you're not going to be able to, even if you have a physical copy of it. So, like, games just aren't going to be around. I guess enjoy your gameplay while the game is out, because a lot of the time, if you go to play it later on, you're literally not going to be able to, at least not with the copy you have or in the way you think you're going to be able to. It sounds like I'm like just like doom speaking, but I'm not. It's like literally what's happening. It just happened to me with a copy of a PS4 game. And we're in PS5. It's one generation off. And I have to be online for it. So, like, you know, preservation now is a nightmare. I don't know what we're going to do. If we move on from all of this, like, the last thing I guess to talk about is being a collector. Like, a lot of you guys are getting scammed now. Like, you're going to buy a game, the full thing's not included. What's the point of owning the physical copy? I think they have to make it much more clear when you're buying a game. Okay, this full thing is here. The entire game and everything is included on the disc. Like, Switch 2 game of Cyberpunk is supposed to be the full thing and the DLC all fit into one 64 megabyte cartridge. So I don't know how the wizards over at CD Projekt Red managed to do that and pull that off, but it just goes to show it can be done. So that's not necessarily a small game by any way, shape, or form. So if they can do it, you know, I don't really see an excuse for any other company. So, like I'm saying, I guess the future is digital. Get used to it. Buy physical media when the whole thing is there. But, like, I don't know. What do we do if you actually want to own your games now? I'm not sure. So I guess I'll just wrap it up here because I don't see this video taking any kind of a positive spin, and I don't want to just keep going super negative with it. But, like, I'm upset. I thought at least if we have physical media, we own our stuff. But apparently that's not the case. So be careful. Read your small print. And, yeah. Figure out ways to back up your games and, you know, do what you have to do. Do what you have to do to make sure that your games are yours and you can keep them and back them up however you need to or see fit. All right. I guess that's it for me. I'm out. Thanks, guys.